Congressman Vern Buchanan. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today. We're going to talk about something in terms of veterans. We have 85,000 veterans in the two counties that I represent, and we've got a very distinguished panel today to talk about how can we help veterans in terms of education, in terms of job opportunities in our communities. And with that, I think we'll start with you, Chris. So if you, each of you take just a minute or two just to talk about mention your name, your organization, a little bit about what you do for veterans or might be able to do for veterans in our community.
Absolutely. Again, my name is Chris Davis, and I work for Goodwill, Minnesota, and I'm the program manager for the Veterans Initiative, which is formally titled the American Veterans and Their Families Initiative. The President, Bob Brzezinski, designed the program around being able to provide a comprehensive case management model to veterans that really doesn't get siloed into grants or any type of interest. And so with that, I'm also an Army veteran. I was in for 14 years. I got out as a first sergeant in the 82nd Airborne Division. Between Iraq and Afghanistan, I did 7 deployments. I did 4 in Iraq and 4 in Afghanistan. I moved to this area to be with my son, and I love it here. and I'm really passionate about what we do at Goodwill. So that's my background.
I'll just mention too that when I went to Iraq and Afghanistan, I'd always make it a point, because I went into the service at 18, is to meet with a lot of the 18 to 22-year-olds. And I was always very concerned, because you heard about everybody taking additional tours all the time, and most of them said that we're here because we want to be here, because we want to make a difference for our country. And I just was incredibly proud of the attitudes that they have. Dawn?
My name is Dawn Goodrich. I'm a human resource business partner at CAE Healthcare, part of the parent company of CAE, manufacturer human patient simulators at CAE Healthcare and air flight simulators at the CAE parent division, as well as multiple other simulators. As far as veterans go, we are a government contractor, so, but even before those initiatives are mandated, it's always been near and dear to the company. We find that veterans have a lot of the skills that we're looking for, a lot of the work ethic. Myself being a veteran, I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran, 1990 to 1994, served during the first Gulf War. My family is military. My dad is retired Navy. My brother is still active duty Army in Alaska and Special Forces. So we believe in the cause and believe that they offer and provide a lot of value. We currently have 18% of our population as veterans.
Yeah, I might just add, I mentioned that we have 85,000 veterans in Sarasota, Manatee County, but in the state there's over 2 million. In the country, over 20 million. Wow. So we have a lot of veterans, and freedom's not free without our veterans. So, Peter?
Peter Shea, electrical technology instructor, Manatee Technical Institute. I am also the staff advisor to our veterans organization, Gamma Iota Chi. It was formed early this year, school year, and right now our members show about 88 veterans that are enrolled at MTI in various programs and all. And this program the fraternity was formed so that we could kind of outreach our veterans that are in the campus and taking the programs that are unaware of a lot of the benefits that are available to them through Goodwill, Suncoast, and some of the others. And it's kind of sparked a really good interest. We do have a lot of staff members also that are veterans. Myself, I'm a former Navy veteran, 1970, 1976, Vietnam, one tour of duty. And we'll try to go back a second time, but they were winding down that war, so they wouldn't let me go.
Yeah, a lot of it's a timing.
Yes, it is. And what you were saying about the 18 and 20s, yes, because also during Vietnam, there was a lot of them that would go. Tour of duty was 1 year for Army, Marine Corps, I believe Air Force also. For me, it was 6 months for what we were doing. But they would go back to the States and then come back. They want to go back. And so it holds true for that age group. It really does.
Amazing, because a lot of them told me, look, in the older generation, my generation, it was a draft. He said, we're here, we're volunteers, we're here because we want to be here. Not to say the others didn't, but that was just something that they held on to.
Right.
Michael, tell us a little bit about your organization.
My name is Michael Smart, and I'm with Career Source Suncoast. I am a retired first sergeant from the United States Army. I served 27 years. As far as Career Source Suncoast, our main focus with our veterans is to provide them with reemployment services and training opportunities. So that's where we put our primary focus with our veterans on. Additionally, if we have any veterans that may have any barriers, such as being homeless or need medical attention, we also provide them with the service organizations that can assist them.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I want to thank all our panelists, but let me just lead off. I've got a few questions, and we'll make this just conversational, as we talked about a little earlier. You know, I went at 18, and you know, you kind of under the umbrella of your parents or whatever at home. It was an incredible growing up opportunity for me. They throw you in a flight, and you know, whether you're in the Guard, Reserve, or just the regular Air Force, everybody's together, you know, through the boot camp, and then you went to the technical training, so it ended up being about 6 months for me. But it was an incredible positive experience in my life. But what do you sense? I think a lot of these kids that are coming, maybe going at 18, come home at 20, 21, 22, what skill sets, in your mind, do they bring? Because I think it's a huge opportunity for a lot of our employers here, compared to, I don't want to take it away from anybody else, but I think these kids grow up a ton. I know I did. I mean, I remember my parents walking in the house. It's like a whole different discipline that you have. And I still remember that day coming back home. So it was a very positive experience, and I see that for a lot of our young people. But maybe you guys could share your experience. What is that veteran, young veteran coming back at 25 or 22, what do they bring to the workforce?
Well, I'll lead off and just say that a lot of our veterans, when they come to me, you know, they get the typical VA and the exit the Army speech of, you've got all these great skills and leadership, but I think there's some other stuff that we could look a little deeper and we refine out of it. And one of those is really it's time management. They're very good at working with diverse populations. They're very good at taking initiative. Sometimes a little too good at it. We got to pull the throttle back on them a little bit. I also think that they have a great sense of prioritization. And I think that sometimes they don't get told that enough, and we want to highlight that when we work with them, and I'm sure you guys as well, to say those things because, and to be able to quantify them sometimes. And you should see their faces sometimes. They light up, they're like, yeah, I am good at time management. You know, and so I think those are the four big ones that sometimes get overlooked. Because they come out with a rah-rah speech at TAPS or something, and so I try to mold them a little bit with that, So,
Dawn, you touched on a little bit, but what do you find? Because you hire, sounds like a lot of veterans or consider a lot of veterans. You take a 21-year-old young male or female compared to, maybe someone who had a high school education come in. What do you see as a difference yourself?
One of the biggest things that I see is the work ethic. It's an innate work ethic that you get once you have served. You touched on the communication skills. It's a vast breadth of communication skills, talking to all different chain of command, hierarchy, understanding organizations. All of these things become innate to these veterans, and I agree. I don't think that they're told that enough. And I work with a lot of my employees, families as well, encouraging them to go into the military, talking to them about the benefits, because no matter what I have done, subsequently getting out, getting degrees going, doing all this, no matter what, it's my military experience that set that foundation. Yes. And I think that's critical.
Yeah, and I tell you, especially everybody, but especially I think of males, because I can identify with that. A lot of kids need at 18. I know it's probably not somewhat politically correct, but I'd love to see every young person do some service back to their country at 18. They do that in other countries, because I just think it would be just a great opportunity to set a foundation in their life, whether they want to go to college or whatever they want to do after that. But I just think it's a big opportunity. And I noticed you were nodding there. Peter, what do you find with a veteran? What's a veteran bring to the workforce compared to someone that might not be a veteran?
The discipline. The sheer fact that when I went in, I was 18. You grew up. I grew up real quick.
That's what
I'll have to say within a couple of hours I grew up. Because it was laying there in the rack that night, I'm like, well, if you get yourself in trouble, you can't call Dad to get you out. I'm in California and he's in Florida. That wasn't going to work.
And you got, I remember getting that haircut just like you got when I was 18.
It was all the way.
I had long hair at that time.
Yes, I did. I had it down to the shoulders.
I had it.
I'm watching them like this, and it felt like I just lost something. I'm like, where did it all go, you know? But no, it was growing up, and then the fact that you don't have to like what you have to do. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you can take a shower, but you just have to do it. And that's where the discipline started to come in. And you worked as a team, 100%. Everybody was there from all walks of life, didn't make a bit of difference, but you worked together. And whoever your teammate was, you knew more about that person probably than their parents did. I mean, that's how close everybody was. And so the discipline right there, the camaraderie, and it just escalated, and bingo.
And I think the respect that you get for your teammates and for your leaders, you know, all that gets that structure, that hierarchy, because you got a lot of kids, the teenagers coming out, you know, don't want to believe anything their parents are doing. That's the old way. But just the discipline, as you said, you get back. Michael, what would you add? Is because you've been probably served longer than anybody, and thank you on behalf of a grateful nation for your service.
Well, veterans bring leadership to the table, because that's one of the big things that that is instilled in you when you're in the military, and that leadership carries on out into your civilian life. Just like Don said about the work ethic, and Peter said about the discipline. You know, a veteran in the military being late is just unheard of. So when an employer is looking at a veteran, they're looking at somebody that they know that's going to come to work every day. They're going to be on time every day, and they're going to be a team player, because that has been instilled in them through their military experience.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking, I was at a business meeting yesterday, there were 7 of us there. We all needed to be there, and one guy comes in an hour late. We couldn't start the meeting till he got there. I'll tell you, everybody, these are all busy people, and everybody was pretty upset about that, but that gets back to your point. Chris, were you going to add something?
I was going to add 3 things I thought about what veterans bring, and we talked about innateness and all that, but I think one, it teaches them, even if it's in a sarcastic manner, to have a very positive attitude about things. Because, you know, there's an old saying, you know, some days you got to eat a really bad sandwich, you just take big bites and you swallow a lot. And I think that that's something that's taught to us. And 2, they're natural team builders, and they operate very well in a team, but you know, if they're just standing around, there's an old saying that in the absence of orders, what do? You attack. And so we talked about the initiative with that too. And I think another thing that we kind of lose sight of is when you talk about that sense of it's a pride issue. He may be late, an hour late, but he'll at least walk in and apologize for it. You know, so it's you get a sense of responsibility for yourself and what it means to the greater purpose. And I think that that's an invaluable skill. And I'm not a CEO, but you know, I've worked for CEOs who have always told me that about veterans.
Yeah, one thing in my experience, and you guys probably know even more so, but I just remember that the kids that for one reason or another had emotional problems, were not stable, you know, didn't want to be somewhat fit, all these, they kind of broomed them out or worked with them. So if you get through that process, usually after 6 months, the first 6 months is tough, you're usually pretty tough. And employers, they can't weed people out necessarily like that, but the military does a pretty good job, because you don't want a guy in the foxhole next to you that's not emotionally stable. So they have an obligation to make sure they weed people out. Let me switch to the GI Bill. It's something that I've really been a pusher of. It was a big thing in the 70s. A lot of kids couldn't go to college unless they had the GI Bill. It's new and improved, and we continue to make it better. And in fact, they get $1,000, I think, roughly, in terms of living expenses, plus education, all their books paid, and tuition and all that. And so let's talk about the GI Bill and your thoughts on it, or your organization, how they might be able to take advantage of the GI Bill maybe with your organization. And why don't we start with you on this one, Peter, because I think, can kids go, and these technical institutes are getting better. I read something the other day, how much more money they're putting in them, because you always think, I want my kid just to go to college, but there's a lot of good technical schools, and I think we got 2 of the best in our region of Manatee County that kids can go and and starting a business, whatever it might be, and there's a lot of opportunities. And then maybe over 5 years, they might run their own business.
Exactly.
But maybe talk about the GI Bill, and can they use the GI Bill where they're at with you, or where's
certainly,
that at?
yes. To go on the fact that, not everybody is college bound.
Yeah.
And I think more and more people are finding that out, parents and everything. Yes, they like their son or daughter to go to college, but they aren't all bound that way. Mm-hmm. Some have very good skills, mechanically inclined, and no, not so much. So, okay, they go to technical school, they can get the in-depth, get-in-place entry right there. Speaking of the program that I run, electrical technology, when they leave there, they can go right to an electrical contractor, do their resume. They have the knowledge of everything that this contractor does. Not necessarily the complete knowledge, but they have enough that they can walk right in and not be the helper. They're an apprentice, so they get paid a little bit more. Yes, you got to work your way up the ladder. Nobody starts off way at the top, you got to work that way. Some of them right now, I've had a student who started out and he was making $10.25 an hour. 18 months later, he's making $25 an hour. It's a great success story right there. So yes, the skills are there. We do have the GI Bill is accepted. We have a lot of students. I have 2 in my program right now that are 1 Navy and 1 Army, and they're just phenomenal. I wish I had more vets. Mm-hmm. I really do. Yeah. And on the other side of the GI Bill, what I'd like to see is that become available for every veteran. Mm-hmm. No time limit. When I got out, okay, we had a time limit because it was at that period of time. I wasn't ready to go to college or go to school. I was trying to get my head together a little bit. I also had a family that had support, so I went directly to the workforce. Then when I became ready, the bill was gone. It was all used up. So I believe that it should start when that individual is ready to go to college or school, and then start the clock if there's going to be a time limit. But not everybody is going to be ready to go directly into any form of education.
I think today, and I'd have to look at it, but I think today if you don't use it, you can let your kids use it at some point. So there's some additional, opportunities from that standpoint. And that's the thing, this debate now that's going on minimum wage. And, nobody can, our minimum wage in the country is $7.25, and Florida at $7.93, so it's about $8 an hour. But nobody can live on minimum wage. It's a good startup position for kids. But this technical school and other things, I know people I've seen in industry, they can make $60,000 to $80,000 a year.
Yes,
you got a chance of raising a family. But what are you going to do short of that if you don't have? That's why I think just in terms of that, and I agree with you, I'm one of 6 kids. Some kids are a little more bound for college. Maybe they can do that. Some don't like college. But you got to have something. You got to have a skill to get you started, at least in your 20s. And I can tell you that I've read a statistic. Half of the people who have been successful as it relates to dollars and cents, millionaires, a lot of them are high school graduates that started out in a technical field. Now they start out in drywall or plumbers, and now they own an electrical company, or they ended up being the home builders in areas. I can't tell you how many people I know that are in that scenario, but it all starts in a school like yours.
Right. Exactly.
Anybody else on the GI Bill?
I would say, one of the key features of the initiative at Goodwill is that the Goodwill was nice enough to send me to the National Service Officers course, where I can actually help these guys do these benefits in our offices. But I would agree with you. A large, I would say, a majority of my clientele are Vietnam veterans or post-Vietnam veterans who did qualify at one point for VEAP or the first GI Bill. But that's run out for them, and they struggle with how to get help. And VRAP was around for a little bit, but it's gone now, and there's some talk that it will continue. But I think that's the population that I struggle with when it comes to get them back into school and training. And Goodwill has tons of private donors that will pay scholarships and things like that. But I would always love to see another program to come out to help those guys that are specifically were tradespeople that probably need to do something else because of disabilities or or whatever their circumstance might be. But just that opportunity for them to change careers.
When I was in Korea this last year, when I'm in Iraq, Afghanistan, I tell all the kids the same thing. Look, this is part of your pay plan, part of your package. You earn this money. If you don't take it or make it available, you should take advantage of it. But if you don't, maybe your kids, but you need to take advantage of it because they might be making 30, take a number, 25,000, but this package is worth another 10,000 a year they've earned. It's being provided for them. So I really try to encourage all of them, because I probably wasn't ready to go to college right away, but going through in the military for 6 months, 8 months, I came back, and then I went 3 years of college. I grew up a lot. So I really encourage these young people because someone said that the college education's an equalizer. I was the first one in my family to go to college and finish. But I really do think technical schools, they got to get something in terms of, from that standpoint. Anybody else, any other comments on the GI Bill?
Well, not necessarily on the GI Bill, but just to piggyback off of Chris on the VRAP program, although it's gone, we were able to assist 63 veterans to get enrolled in the VRAP program, which allowed them to get up to $1,500 a month, up to 12 months. So would like to see that program come back because it's a great program and it helps out a lot of veterans.
I do want to mention, someone other mentioned here just real quick about leadership and that. One thing I want to say to the viewers and the kids here, I've put about 50 kids in the academies from Manatee, Sarasota County. 2 young ladies went in the Naval Academy, 18-year-olds. As a kid growing up, I grew up in a blue-collar family. I didn't know anything about the academies, and I wouldn't have qualified anyway. But we do try to get, and I just say to the viewers or any of you, especially that kids are 8th or 9th grade that have the talent, have the interest, we really try to get kids that, maybe a blue-collar family or working family. We want to get as many of these kids in the academies as we can that want to be there, and it's not their parents wanting to push them there, because otherwise they get there a year and they drop out. But, they come out of there, they get the best education in the country. They come out as an officer, a lady, and a gentleman. And they get incredible leadership skills. It got back to your point where you got leadership skills. So I just encourage any of our viewers today also in terms of looking at the academies, because I think they're world class. We do spend about $500,000 on these kids, but it's a great investment for them, their families, and for our country. How many veterans are involved? How many veterans have you dealt with or are you dealing with today in your program, your separate programs?
We've been around for a year. We started in January of last year, and individually we have either dealt with, assessed, and we've helped at 98%, but we're at 602 veterans as today. And so our average age is about 35, which is a little bit lower than some of the other service providers. And so that's, to answer that question, 602 to date. So
how many what's your capacity?
Oh, until I fall over. So we have a case management perspective where we try to manage about 20 different veterans at one time, and that's a very intensive case management program. The information and referral portion and really that just makes me a connector, because when I use the term, I parachuted into Sarasota, I knew there were a lot of things that were available, and when Bob Brzezinski, our president and CEO, asked me, like, what are we going to do with this thing? I said, I think one big thing was to send me out and let me go door to door and just kind of figure out what everybody does. And so the number we have today is 135 different partnerships throughout the community that if a veteran calls me and just says, hey, I want to do this, well, let me get you in touch with, X, Y, Z, and give me a call back. And we always follow up with them, because I think another thing that kids fall through.
That's pretty impressive, 602 in a matter of a year. Dawn, how many veterans have you worked with, or have you guys hired? Or
Well, we have 38 veterans,
Yeah.
Which is quite a significant amount. And it caveats on a lot of what we've been talking about here in regards to the trade schools, going back to the military trade schools. Some of these crew chiefs, the nuclear, the sub technicians, those are the people that we look to hire. They come out of the military with a skill set that it can be refined at the technical schools, but it's a skill set that nobody else has, and they're willing to do. They're multi-versed in many things, because in the military you learn that you get the job done no matter what it takes, the above and beyond. But we have currently 38 veterans just at CAE Healthcare.
I tell you, I was so impressed, as I think it was in Korea or somewhere, and just the Navy with their organization is the Seabees. Is that what it is?
Yes, construction.
Yeah, construction.
Yes.
These gals are very talented. I mean, I've heard of them, but I actually seen them in action. It was unbelievable what they build in and around the world. It's very impressive to get back to the skill sets. A lot of these people, electronics, construction, everything else.
Right.
From that standpoint. Peter, you got anything you want to add to that? Or how many kids, veterans, do you have in or hope to have in, or what's your goal there?
As many as possible. Right now there's an enrollment of 88, and that's the enrollment doesn't include the instructors. Our veterans fraternity has 25 plus or minus on that that actually participate, that come to the meetings and all. And that's not including faculty either. And we get around. We talk to our vets all the time. We say hello to them and, how's it going, things like this, and just let them know, to give them the encouragement and everything else. But it's wide open. Bring over a couple hundred more. Let's have them, if they want to go. We certainly have the room for them.
Michael, do you have anything you want to add to that? Or?
Well, in the last 12 months, we have provided services to 1,600 veterans. As far as capacity-wise, we can do much more. I mean, we have 5 veteran representatives that work out of our 3 locations, and their sole purpose in life is to assist our veterans in whatever needs that they may have, from reemployment to training to if they're homeless or whatever the case may be. So.
And I'll just say our office, we have an office in Bradenton and Sarasota, staffed with the idea that anybody, it's a veteran that's earned a benefit, we want to make sure they get all their benefits, or any disabled veterans. We have a lot of, unfortunately, a certain amount of disabled veterans that maybe 20% disability but feel they should be at 40 or 50. We try to do everything we can, assuming obviously it's legitimate, to get them either the benefits they've earned or make sure from a disability standpoint that they get what they're supposed to be getting, because many times they get reevaluated 3 years later and it can make a big difference. So I'm just saying that to the viewers today or any veterans in the area, we try to do everything we can to fight for the veterans, from that standpoint. Just switching just quickly, in terms of the government, state or federal or anything, Congress, is there anything more that we could do to help your organizations in a sense, or be more successful in terms of your outreach with veterans? Is there anything that comes to mind? Someone had mentioned something about the GI Bill or something, but is there anything else that would be helpful to you that indirectly helps our veterans get jobs or helps them get re-employed or something like that, that could be done on a community or state or federal level?
Well, I'll start again. I'm just that kind of guy.
Well, I can tell you're a leader. I just see that right now.
One of the things that we worked with the state legislators, particularly Greg Stubbe, he's on a task force that works with Goodwill, and I think one of the things that we identified was there was a need to have almost like a community veteran center. And that's kind of what we've tried to become. And the idea is that, there needs to be, I think that there needs to be either a state funded or at least a state mandated location that when you leave a base at where you've got this great support network, that you can go into a community and kind of almost like a welcome center, if that's what it is. We do it collectively, and I think over the last year we've done a great job of the collusion piece of it, and I think we partner way more now than we ever did. We just did a jobs and services fair with Suncoast Workforce. But I would love to see something like that, and I think we, as a task force for Goodwill, we've kind of picked that up and we're moving forward with it, and hopefully we'll see something out of that. I think another thing, I have an assistant that's going to come work for me next week. She was a nurse in the Air Force, and I'm sure everybody's heard this argument. She had to go to the state of California and sue them for them to acknowledge the fact that she was actually a nurse. They certified her in the Air Force, the same exam they would give a civilian, but when she got out, they wanted her to go back to school. I know that Congress is working on that right now, so if you can, you can throw a jab or two in there and kind of break down some of those walls, that'd be awesome.
I'm pretty good at jabbing.
Yeah, so that's what I hear.
I can work on that.
So those are the two big things, and then the obvious, the educational benefits for I think we do a great job for our young veterans at Chapter 33, 31, 30, even 35 for the dependents. But it's those Vietnam guys that I really feel that have proven themselves to be active and positive in their own recovery or career exchange, that they could probably use some help in that regards.
Yeah, let me also mention along that line, we do have a Service Appreciation Day, just looking at the date, March 29th at the Sarasota Military Academy at 9:30, be a good part of the day. Most of your organizations will all be represented, but we want to encourage all our veterans or anybody that's coming back from Iraq or Afghanistan to come on down and take a look at all the things that are available to veterans today. Any other thoughts on what we were talking about, Dawn?
A couple of points. I agree with the GI Bill. I would have never have got my bachelor's if I did not have the GI Bill. But by the time I had gone back to school after starting a family and all of that, finished my bachelor's, went to start my master's, it was done. And it couldn't, there's a time frame on when it can go to your kids, on how long you served and all of that, because I was the first Gulf War veteran, so it changed after that. So I think definitely some type of extension so that we could use it at any time, right? Second to that, the tax credits. I think on the employer behalf, it's interesting that those all ended, in January. I think we lost 54 or 55 various tax credits, but the big one, which doesn't necessarily encourage the veteran, but would definitely encourage employers to reach out more to veterans, is that tax for hiring a wounded veteran or hiring a protected veteran, and I'd like to see that come back. I think
we're on the I'm on the tax committee and the Ways and Means committee, and we're doing tax reform right now. And so all these things are being considered. So any thoughts or incentives that would make a difference in the school or any of the veterans, let me know. What I want to do now is just take a minute and maybe as we close out the program is mention a little your group and how to get a hold of you if they're interested in your organization. In case someone joined us late in terms of the program, maybe we just take a minute here closing up, announce again your organization, what you're doing, and if someone's interested in getting a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? And I'll have each of you, and maybe we'll start down here with Michael and go this way. Just a little bit about your organization, and then if someone wants to get a hold of you, how they best get a hold of you.
Well, we have 3 career centers, one located in Bradenton. We have another career center in Sarasota and another career center in Venice. So either a veteran can call in or come in and visit, walk into one of our career centers. Veterans do have priority of service in all our career centers. And once they come in and sign in at the front desk, then whatever services they need, they will be directed from there.
Yeah. Peter?
Manatee Technical Institute, our new campus located on State Road 70. Come on in, check it out. Talk to one of the guidance counselors. If they want, they can talk to me directly. Just ask them. There every day, and we can all go from there. I mean, if they're really interested, we can get them in. Definitely.
I just did a big spread on the facilities here in Manatee and Sarasota County. They really put a lot of money in investment, and they've taken it all to another level. What you might have thought of the Manatee facilities and things 10 years ago compared to today, it's a new day. So people need to take advantage of that. Dawn?
Well, again, I'm with CAE Healthcare, and we're an employer, and I rely on this group and the resources to represent and push employees, candidates to us, and try to stay involved in the community and stay exposed, which is one of the reasons I was asked here to be here today and represent on that cause and just try to make sure it's known. And you can reach me either through the caehealthcare.com website or via email or on LinkedIn.
And Chris?
Goodwill, Minnesota, and you can reach us at www.experiencegoodwill.org. And you can reach me if you're a veteran looking for assistance or a family member at 941-359-0520, extension 299. Or you can email me at christopher.davis@gimi.org.
Good.
So.
Well, I want to thank all our panelists. I want to thank METV for helping us put on this program. And I also just want to mention to any of the viewers today that we have an office in Bradenton and Sarasota. We represent about 85,000 veterans. Anything we can do to help you either get a benefit, or if you have we have some disabled veterans, if we can help you in terms of what you've earned, we're there for you. Thank you and God bless. Thanks.